With Jujutsu Kaisen's popularity being at an all-time high, and with Sukuna's newly revealed abilities, it seems very grim for the world of Jujutsu. However, what if Sukuna attempted this on another world full of spirits? And no, I'm not talking about Bleach. That entire verse would blink Sukuna along with the rest of JJK away. Today, I will be answering the question, could the greatest team in anime arguably stop the world-ending threat known as Sukuna? And this team is none other than Team Urameshi. Now, Team Urameshi is a group of goats that I feel like does not get talked enough about. Or talked about enough. I don't really care. You guys get the point. Today, I'll be answering the question nobody has asked, but hopefully I give more attention to Yu Yu Hakusho scaling along with JJK downplay. Now, before anything, let's talk about Team Urameshi since a lot of people are unfamiliar with their game. Yu Yu Hakusho, like most verses, has a power chart to go off of and determine exactly how strong characters are. In the Dark Tournament, their main obstacle was a mid-B class demon level threat known as Toguro, which Yusuke took the entire arc to really surpass. After this arc, the group is then met with an S-class demon known as Sensui, which the entire squad by the end at least has some type of scaling to. Kuwabara is a little shaky to argue for, but the main three definitely should scale to. This is important to note as Sensui, even before reaching his full power, was a threat to not only the entire planet, but also the demon realm, which on the lowest scale should at least be planet-sized. Sensui was causing tremors on a global scale with less than half of his power, meaning a full-powered Sensui would be beyond those multi-continental ranges. And low-key, this is downplay, as Sensui is doing this with just his aura. Yusuke not only thrashes Sensui in his demon state, but would attain an even stronger power after this that could apparently destroy the entire world if he wanted to.
If you got mad and wanted to blow up this whole world, you could do that.
Meanwhile, Hiei and Kurama by the end of Three Kingdoms scale to top tier S classes, and Kuwabara makes up for his lack of strength with his insane hacks that will be specifically important for later on. But by the end of the Three Kingdoms saga, at worst, the squad is reaching Continental, with the main three reaching potentially those planet level ranges, with Yusuke for sure being in that tier. Kuwabara unfortunately just doesn't have really as much scaling as the others, but due to Yu Yu Hakusho's ridiculous power cliffing, it wouldn't be a reach to say by the end of the series he'd be able to beat up most if not anyone in the Dark Tournament or even press weaker forms of Sensui, who, like I said, is just flexing and causing global tremors. But it's okay since Kuwabara isn't too important to note for AP, so we could just move on to speed. Now, speed for Yu Yu Hakusho is a little interesting since even as early as Mei's Castle, Hiei is able to cut a demon 16 times in seemingly one swing, which was calculated to be in the early Mach 20 to 30s. And even in this same arc, Yusuke is punching away lightning blasts at relatively close ranges, and using things like not only Togoro's percentages and how they're exponential and not linear, you could say by the end of the Dark Tournament, Yusuke is reaching those high double to low triple digit Mach speeds. Hiei would not only combat and react to Yusuke, but Kurama and him would portray relativity when fighting Sensui, meaning they all should scale to these speeds, and this is me not even acknowledging just how big the gap in speed gets, meaning they all should scale to these speeds, and this is me not even acknowledging just how big the gap in speed gets because these guys all grow stupidly strong after Dark Tournament. And again, I know I didn't mention Kuwabara, but it's just because he himself doesn't perform the main metas for this verse, but to say that he couldn't react to first arc Yusuke, it's kind of far-fetched and sounds stupid. No Galarian. Now, that's Yu Yu Hakusho's main stats out of the way, but what about their abilities? For this, I can finally separate the characters as they all possess a unique set of abilities and skills. Yusuke's arsenal consists of just varying energy attacks, primarily the spirit gun, and he can create barriers to reflect attacks. He can for some reason flex away people with his aura, which is cool, but besides this, there's really nothing super unique he can do. However, we do know he has a whole other transformation that could be interesting in the fight when it comes to that time to use it. Hiei possesses the Jagan Eye, which allows him to utilize and resist mind control. He has excellent swordsmanship along with being able to harness the power of the Black Dragon, which basically gives him cool black fire powers. He has the ability to naturally separate his physical body with his spirit, and he can create after images, making it damn near impossible to hit him. And he seems to be the only person on the team to possess this ability. Kurama is a man who mainly utilizes plants from the demon realm to hit his opponents with a variety of things. Whether it be thorns to pierce his enemies, acid, illusions, mind manipulation, or even life drain, Kurama, even with just one blow, could land something pretty devastating on the King of Curses. And lastly, we have Kuwabara, who can energy project weapons and emit blasts, but unlike everyone else, Kuwabara pretty much has Sukuna's World Slash on deck. What I mean is that he has the ability to cut space, pretty much. We see this in Black Tape, where we see him legit break separate spaces with his blade, and unlike Sukuna, he can wield this without meeting specific requirements. So, hey, if it comes down to it, Kuwabara, he just gotta time the parrying, and he could probably deflect that world slash. With that aside, I think I've analyzed pretty decently what this group of goats is capable of, so now let's see what they're up against. Now, funny enough, I just made a whole video kind of specifically going in depth with JJK scaling, but you know what? For this video, I'm actually going to play devil's advocate. For this match, I'm going to be using scaling I don't usually grant Sukuna, just because I'm feeling nice. Ryomen Sukuna, also known as the King of Curses, reigned over the strongest era of sorcery, that being the Heian period. Even after coming back centuries later and being in much weaker states, he was capable of turning cities into ash and even surpassing the likes of Jogo and Dagon, these same people who can generate mountain levels of energy with their domain expansions. Though this is a little tricky, as domains are kind of a weird way to scale in universe, and it's not as simple as, let's say, Dragon Ball, where someone who's stronger would usually beat the other character. The JJK scaling, unfortunately, is not that easy, and it can get a little tricky. Luckily, the guy we're scaling is the strongest in the verse, so he pretty much should upscale from anything, if not all feats from the series, including things like Kenjaku saying special grades are capable of overthrowing entire nations, which for this video I'm just going to be taking at face value, meaning Sukuna can destroy a country. Now, it is said Prime Sukuna could seemingly destroy the world, and you know what, I think for this versus battle, I'm going to be giving this to Sukuna. Just because we did talk about a similar statement for Yusuke earlier, and I actually want to bring that into comparison later on. And so for this video, I will be saying Sukuna at his strongest can destroy nations, with him potentially being able to destroy the world itself. And as for speed, if you think I'm giving him light speed, you're goddamn wrong, because that shit's scuffed. But I'll just say he's faster than Kashimo or Nue's lightning, which Hakari and Maki and Toji can semi-react to. At the very worst, he should be hypersonic, since he just point blank dodged a speed of sound moving attack. As for Sukuna's abilities, his main two are Cleave and Dismantle, which allow him to cut and adjust his slashes to cut the opponent. He would have Malevolent Shrine, which allows him to essentially spam slashes, which he did against Maharaga. Another domain expansion where the entire area just gets atomized for 99 seconds. Fuga, which is a fire arrow so powerful it could turn entire cities into ash, still weaker than the Buggy Bomb though. And on top of this, he has 4 arms. I don't know, it just looks cool, that's why I mentioned it. Anywho, Sukuna with these abilities can be a pretty tricky opponent, and if he does somehow get a domain off, the entire squad might be done for. But let's talk about what would realistically happen in this scenario. We'll pretty much say the squad after the ending of Yu Yu Hakusho got hit with the abrupt happy ending, and all of a sudden they just sense the nastiest presence they've ever felt in their lives. It'd be none other than Ryomen Sukuna, who Yusuke immediately tries to talk down, but Yusuke realizes that this threat was going to have to be killed. Hiei and Kurama, already seeing what this creature was, would move in offrip to attack Sukuna, which works pretty well in their favor. With their ridiculous speed and attack potency advantage, these two alone would press Sukuna pretty badly, but that's not even the worst part. The fact still stands that Kuwabara, who is without a doubt the weakest of the squad, is performing better than anyone did in Shinjuku aside from Gojo himself. I mean, with his dimension slash, he probably could do better. Sukuna, if you want to be like super mega generous, is planet level at his like absolute peak. With the world slash, having binding vow, sure, go ahead and try and make that argument. But even if we granted that to Sukuna, Hiei, Kurama, and Yusuke probably still have higher attack potency than him. And if we only just give him the country level scaling, then base Yusuke, Kurama, Hiei, and hell, even Kuwabara could probably handle him by themselves. Like, I'm not kidding when I tell you that Kuwabara probably could parry a world slash, which visually just sounds hilarious, bro. And Kurama and Hiei do not play with their food, so before Sukuna can even get a domain or a cleave or dismantle off, he's going to be blitzed with a dozen other slashes coming from Hiei, and he'd be restrained, having his life drained or his mind controlled by Kurama. And if all of that didn't convince you enough, let's say Sukuna pretty much put Yusuke in the same predicament Sensui did, where he dropped all of his friends and forced Yusuke to transform. We now have somebody who's planetary off of binding vows and wank, versus somebody who can casually destroy the planet if he felt like it. Yu Yu Hakusho is just way out of JJK's pay grade, and Sukuna's Fuga unironically is going to be flexed off of Kuwabara's forehead.